Hello and welcome everyone. I'm sorry we're a couple of minutes late. We apologize for that. We were battling with some technical issues, but then we just go over that. Thank you for joining us today. This evening. As May 29 beckons, we're reminded of the huge task that lies ahead, especially for elected public officials, as they get set to assume office, adorning the paraphernalia of office. These elected officials are no longer limited to just being party representatives, but are now public representatives. You know, whether it is the president-elect, the state governors-elect, or indeed those elected to the national state assemblies. Let's again remind you that all things being equal, I mean, with if nothing happens and if all goes to plan, the 10th National Assembly will be inaugurated on Tuesday, June 13, 2 days after the lifespan of the current 9th National Assembly would expire on Sunday, June 11. And in anticipation of all of these and rising public expectations, tonight we will continue in our quest to gain insight into how prepared some of our elected officials are for the task of leadership and public representation. My name is Nnamdi Odipo. Welcome to The Mandate. Now, my first guest, it will seem we plan to bring you another guest if all things go according to plan. But well, then my first guest has had the opportunity to prove his mettle at the Green Chambers of the National Assembly already, and as yet another, attempt to serve in the same lower legislative chamber come June 13 upon the inauguration of the National Assembly. He is 7th member and member-elect for Doma Kiana Federal Constituency, Honorable Hon Na Laraba. He joins me tonight on the site of The Mandate to discuss his plans for the 10th National Assembly. Welcome to the program, Honorable, and thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Nnamdi, and thank you for having me. I
understand you're a bit under the weather. I mean, it makes it even more, critical, or rather, it makes it, it gives it depth that you're here, in spite of the fact that you're a bit under the weather. I would like to wish you quick recovery and wish you the very best.
Thank you so much.
So I would like to begin our conversation. I know you're the chairman of the House Committee on Pilgrims Affairs, and we'll get into that sometime, somewhere down the line in our conversation. But now, I want to know in the immediate why some of your colleagues and your supporters and fans refer to you as Honorable Chairman of the Committee on Great Love. I mean, they tend to associate that with your disposition towards the concept, the practice of one Nigeria, and your clamor for national unity and our collective destiny. But don't you think, even at this point, especially at this point, and with all that has transpired with the election, the tension, the division, and all of that, you don't think at this point that our unity, Nigeria's unity, should and must be negotiated at all times in order to ensure equity and fairness? We're fond of saying Nigeria's unity is unnegotiable. Shouldn't our continued unity be open to negotiations at this point?
Thank you very much, Mr. Nnamdi. First of all, let me introduce myself once again. My name is Honorable Hon Na Laraba, and I represent the good people of Doma Kiana.
Always the good people.
The good and the bad.
So everybody,
Doma Kiana Federal Constituency. And by the grace of God, I'm the chairman House Committee on Pilgrims Affairs. Okay, I'm going by your question. I think the unity of Nigeria, like you rightly said, is non-negotiable. And at this critical point in time, we need ourselves to be together. By being together, I think the better together we are, and then the better the country will be. And Nigeria being a diverse nation with so much or so many tribes, and with our heterogeneous nature, I think the unity is paramount. It will foster development, and it will also bring peace and love to every home in Nigeria. So we cannot negotiate the unity of Nigeria for anything. Not even
for those who feel aggrieved that they are being sidelined, that they are being marginalized.
That feel aggrieved, the obedience and the disobedience.
No, we're not calling names there.
So I think the unity is non-negotiable. And as you know, Nigerians have a large population.
Indeed.
In Africa. With our population, if we are not united, if there is crisis, where are we going to run to? We have no place to run to. We have no place to call home apart from Nigeria. Our population, no nation can contain refugees from Nigeria. No nation can accommodate Nigerians in anywhere. Take, for instance, what is happening in Sudan at the moment.
Yes.
There is a civil war going on at the moment in Sudan. And at the moment, the Nigerians have been trapped in Sudan. How can they converge or convey them back to the country is something that is critically worrying our leaders at the moment. Then imagine if such situations should happen in Nigeria. Which of these our neighboring countries can contain the population, the people, the influx of Nigerians into their country?
Isn't that why we should at all times be talking about our continued unity, negotiate our continued unity, so that some side don't feel slighted, don't feel marginalized, don't feel like they are being left behind? Isn't that the whole essence of some people who have said, look, even though our unity, our collective destiny, I mean, as a nation, is non-negotiable, yes, but then we need to talk at all times about some of the issues that, you know, that arises from time to time, so that, you know, we know it's dialogue, it's all on the table, and then we trash it out there on the table.
You see, the unity of Nigerian has been discussed in several fora. For example, we've just had an election where various representatives have been elected into the National Assembly, where you discuss the issue of Nigeria.
Okay.
So I think that is already a platform for everybody to come and discuss
and negotiate.
Okay. So we have that platform already in existence. Great. And then we have also a leader that was just elected from the southern part of the country. And our outgoing leader is from the northern part of the country. I think that aspect,
so that is balancing it.
It's balancing it. So in different fora, like I rightly said, Nigerian unity has been discussed and is unnegotiable.
Yeah, this is something you and I will talk about in another time, another platform, when we get the opportunity. For now, let me just take you back into this whole, you know, election, the victory, your post-emergence reaction, where you were quoted as saying that, look, you did all possible best by touching almost every part of your constituency, and that was the reason why you were re-elected, or that was the reason why you won. What exactly did you mean by that in terms of providing adequate representation for your constituents, and also in terms of your promise that, or whatever your constituents have witnessed or have seen so far, is just the tip of the iceberg?
Okay, you see, when we were inaugurated in June 11, 2019.
Correct.
In the inaugural speech of Mr. Speaker, he made a promise, and then he also set up a legislative agenda that he will be willing to visit every constituency and every member who invited him to commission projects. He will be willing to attend. That will serve as a morale booster to that honorable member. And then when we came in, 6 months after we were inaugurated, there was a world pandemic, the COVID pandemic, that almost locked down or shut down the entire world. So the Ninth Assembly tried as much as possible, battle that pandemic, make some laws to cushion the effect of that pandemic, and then, as God will have it, by the special grace of God, that 7 to 8 months after our inauguration, the whole lockdown of 18 was over. And then that brings us to legislative activities proper. And in doing that, we seek for the collaboration of Mr. Speaker and other members of other leaders of the House, which they supported the 9th Assembly. And then Mr. President also, like he rightly said in his budget, this is the first time in the history of National Assembly that a budget is being passed and implemented 100%. And as God will have it, we all benefited from the 100% implementation of that budget. So that gave us the necessary impetus to derive or to facilitate some infrastructural projects to our various constituency that will impact meaningfully to our constituents. Like in my constituency,
yes,
I was able to construct quite a number of road networks, number of boreholes. I facilitated the construction of multi-purpose halls in the 3 local government, like in Away. I constructed about 2 to 3 kilometers of asphalt roads in Away. Same applies to Kana, same applies to Doma. And I have about 30 electoral wards. Out of that 30, about 26 or 27 have been supplied with what do you call it, solar boreholes, and then solar street lights. I also facilitated some training for the youths and women, and most importantly, we gave out some soft loans to 1,000 women of 50,000 naira each to start up a small-scale businesses.
Okay, so some were your constituency project, some were projects you attracted, I mean, maybe through lobbying from federal agencies to your constituent.
Yes, and some of the projects were even executed from my own goodwill, out of my own little savings. I have to like check through the post and then make sure that those projects were executed and completed. So that attracted Mr. Speaker to my constituency to commission those projects like the roads in Doma, the halls that I've executed, constructed, and then my empowerment program. In fact, that was the first time Mr. Speaker visited the constituency of a member, not for wedding, marriage, or ceremonial activity, but specifically to commission projects and participate in empowerment program of a member that invited him to commission such projects.
You know, all of these happened, and that was your first term as a lawmaker, and now you're returning to the House as a ranking member, meaning you've gained more experience, you have more exposure. Now you can even lobby for those interests that would benefit your constituents and, of course, Nigerians generally, because come to think of it, Nigeria is your larger constituency. So what areas or sectors are you thinking of pursuing further legislations on, perhaps?
You see,
because I checked some of the bills and you sponsor and co-sponsors, and some of your, some that you seconded, and and there were quite a few of them. But in terms of setting agenda now for the 10th National Assembly, what areas would you like to focus on personally, and would you like to see the House of Representatives also focus on?
Okay, for now we have to wait and let's see who emerges as the speaker, so that we see
the elephant in the room, the speakership.
The legislative agenda he's going to set for the 10th Assembly. Then we key into his agenda, and then we make it work, and we support him to actualize his dream. And then secondly, whatever we are going to do as lawmakers, we have to key into the mantra of the renewed hope of the president-elect. Whatever he presents to the House, we will support him and give him the necessary backup.
Whatever? Yes. Anything?
Not
good and bad?
Good. Anything good he presented to the House. Because when I mean whatever, certainly he's going to present something good to the House in line with his, like I said, in line with his renewed hope mantra.
Yes.
So we have to key into
because
the
of course
renewed
you wouldn't want the House of Reps to look like a rubber stamp for the executive.
Yes, the renewed hope is a public document. It's there in the public domain. So we will key into it and make sure we give him the necessary backup for him to actualize his dream and then to actualize those promises he made to Nigerians. And you know, the person of Mr. President is somebody that is man of his words. He matches words with action. We've seen what he has done in Lagos, and we've seen so many transformations that took place in Lagos. And we hope such transformations will be done will be translated to what in Nigeria, what he has done in Lagos. So I think we are really ready and fully ready to support him and to support his renewed hope mantra. And then coming to think of my own aspect in my own constituency. My constituency is basically a rural constituency, agrarian community. And then my constituents are mostly agrarian. They farm a lot, they produce a lot of cash crops. So I would like to consolidate on the gains that we have done so far by facilitating or attracting more developmental projects like road network that can facilitate the transportation of those goods and services to the urban areas and then in return to the cities where they are most needed. And then my constituents, again, we have a lot of challenges confronting them, like the supply of water, pipe-borne water, which we are really lacking and they are in need of it. And then also to support the youths to further their education, to give them soft loans, to be self-reliant and self-dependent. Most importantly, the women, which are basically entrepreneur. They are very enterprising. They engage in small-scale businesses, which we hope to continue to support them, to give them what they could be able to rely on themselves and then to help their families to uplift them from poverty line.
This is a great agenda, targets you intend to pursue. You know, I know you're still waiting for the House leadership to take shape. That's something I'll take you up on before we round off our conversation, and so that, you know, the rest of the members of the Federal House of Representatives will now key into the general, you know, agenda of the House. But then, you know, there was something that happened in the House during your stay some years ago. I think it was like 3 years ago. A motion, or rather, there was an attempt to, you know, to boost emergency services in Nigeria in terms of infrastructure and services. I mean, this was you and your colleagues. I remember seeing you speak on this issue. In fact, I remember you saying that you were a victim of fire incident yourself. That would be 13 years ago now. Yeah. So if you look at, I mean, the amount of work you've done, and speaking from your experience, you know, and knowing what has to be done, do you think the 10th House of Representatives, and I mean prospecting now into the future, could push the frontiers in expanding emergency services operations in Nigeria? I hear things like, yes, now like the fire service is saying that they have a 7-minute response time, but you and I know. I mean, you have been a witness yourself, a victim yourself. I mean, so what do you think the House could do or should do in this direction for expanding emergency service operations nationally?
You see, that bill was sponsored by Mr. Speaker, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true.
And then I think the bill is all about giving the necessary support to emergency services where they could come quickly to respond to nature calls when it happens. And like I said in my contribution, I was a victim of fire in Feno. My family house, I think 13 to 14 years ago, got burnt, totally burnt down, and there was no fire service that came to rescue. If there were fire service, I think we wouldn't have lost so many things that we've lost at that time. And we gave the bill all the necessary support that was needed. We debated in favor of it, and the bill was passed. But such bills, the mover and sponsor of the bill need to do more. After going through the National Assembly, I think it has to go through another section of legislative duties, like public hearing, and then after public hearing, it will come back to maybe to the upper chamber, the Senate, for a concurrence. So, and this 10th Assembly, I am very, very optimistic that whoever emerge as the leader of of this 10th Assembly, he will try as much as possible to look at those emergency bills to support the nation. And like I said, we need to wait and see his legislative agenda.
And first, I would have loved to take you up on some other issues, some of your contributions on the floor of the House. I know you also had a position on the carbonated drinks tax law.
Yes.
I remember you calling for a ban. You were like, look, these messagings are wrong. They are misleading. We should ban these messages.
And funny enough, Mr. Nnamdi, all my bills and motions are quite apt, because like the ban on carbonated
beverages and all of that. Subsequently the federal government imposed an excise duty
on it.
Yes, on it.
So
but then, my question would have been, in retrospect now, do you think it is justified within, of course, the 2022-2025 window, when some people would argue that the excise tax has made producers to pass the buck to the consumers, meaning higher prices for carbonated drinks, and boom, inflation.
You see,
all of the
my point on that motion was particularly on the health hazard of carbonated drinks. Most Nigerians at the moment, they are battling with diabetes illness caused by the consumption of sugar and proteins and what have you. And these carbonated drinks easily find their way to the market without going through the normal processes. So what we are saying is to reduce the risk of getting diabetes from consumption of those carbonated drinks. And by that doing, the federal government has quickly... Unfortunately, we're completely out of time. And, the speakership tussle was something I wanted to... But real quick, in 10 seconds, if it's possible, I know the APC members elected now, returning back to the House of Reps are not... and, of course, if you include the new ones, in total, you're not up to 181. And you require a vote of 181 to elect a Speaker of the House of Representatives. Are we looking at a possible steal here by a coalition of opposition parties, or is the APC already lobbying? No, in every leadership election in the National Assembly, you have to have a coalition between the ruling party and the opposition.
Very true.
So in this in this particular one, we are looking at a coalition. Already there are a series of talks going on within the opposition and the ruling party on who to support. But as you know, and like I said earlier, whoever emerges as the Speaker of the 10th Assembly will have a big task ahead of him. They have the task of curtailing the opposition members, who are 186, higher than that of the APC members.
I hear you, and I hear you loud. I'm going to make a promise here. I hope my producer would not hold me to tax, but we would try and bring you back on the program, or if not, we'll create another platform so that we can have, further this conversation and bring it to some logical conclusion. I'd like to thank you so much, member of the 9th National Assembly and returning member for the 10th National Assembly for Awedoma Kiana Federal Constituency, Honorable Abubakar Hon Na Laraba. I'd like to thank you so much for coming on our program tonight. It's been a delight having you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my brother.
And that's it for tonight. Do join us again on Friday for another fresh episode of the program, The Mandate. Well, we would see how it goes. We were supposed to have had a second guest today, but I was just informed by my producer that our second guest has come down with cold, and that would have been the governor-elect for Zamfara State, Dauda Lawa. But of course, he has promised to come on as soon as the cold clears, and then we'll bring him your way. My name is Nnamdi Odipo. See you again on Friday, and good night.